We're on Chapter 6, Lesson 3, Algebra. Variables and expressions. We're finally in algebra. This is awesome. Please turn with me to page 449. Algebra. Algebra is all about numbers, letters, and math operators which we commonly refer to as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and exponents. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this. Algebra is the language of symbols, including variables. A variable is a symbol, usually a letter, that represents a number. So, it's a letter representing a number. So let's use the letter B. B, I'm talking about bears. If I said 3B, then I would have 3 bears. A non-example would be the number 2. 2 is just a number. I could even make it an exponent, 2 to the 4th power. It's still just a number. It only represents a number. The answer to this would always be 2, 4, 8, 16 would always be 16 and nothing else. Where when I have a letter, I can represent different numbers. So let's look at the real world. You have a box containing unknown number of markers, and there are 2 markers outside the box. The total number of markers is represented using the bar diagram. So, suppose there are 14 markers in the box. Find the total number of markers. Explain your answer. So the first thing I'm going to do is put a B for box plus 2. And I'm not going to use an M because I already know that I have 2 markers. So that number doesn't change. The markers outside is 2. But then I'm going to use a B for box. So my B stands for my box. And they have now told me that there are 14 markers inside the box. So I now can substitute 14 plus 2 and tell you that the total number of markers is 16. So again, I use algebra to explain my problem. Turn the page. So algebraic expressions contain at least one variable. There has to be a variable. And at least one operation, or what I call an operator. So in this case, we have n plus 2. So n is the variable, plus is the operator, and 2 is a constant. We haven't defined that yet, but we'll go ahead and write those down. So n is the variable, the plus is our operator, and 2 is our constant. A constant never changes. A 2 is a 2 is a 2 is a 2 and will always be a 2. And again, remember I said multiplication is the invisible operation. This is what makes people confused all the time. I know I can use the dot. I can also use the parentheses. But when I say 5x, what I'm really saying is 5 times whatever x happens to be. So x is my variable. X is not a multiplier. X is my variable. X is my variable. Now, without an equal sign, which then tells me to solve, I can solve expressions by evaluating them if they let me know what the letter represents. And when we do this, it's called substitution. So in this case, I'm going to be able to substitute. Evaluate 16 plus b if b is equal to 25. So, all I do is substitute b for 25. And I have 16 plus 25, which equals 41. So, in evaluating this, I get the answer of 41. In example number 2, I have x minus y. And again, that's not times minus y, it's x minus y, where x is 64 and y is 27. So again, I substitute my numbers in, and I have 64 minus 27, and I get the answer of 37. Now I have 6x, where x is a half. So I have 6 over 1, because I now am going to deal with a fraction. I'm going to go ahead and put the whole number over 1, and then I have x is a half, so I have 6 times 1/2. It is not 6 and 1/2. It is 6 times 1/2. Invisible operation equals multiplication. Please do not stick the numbers together. So we know 2 goes into 6 3 times, so the answer to this particular problem is 3. Now it's your turn. Remember, invisible operation is multiplication. Pause the video. I got 14, 2, 24, and 3. And again, notice on number C, I use the parentheses. 6 parentheses 4. 6 times 4 is 24. And then 9C is not 9 and 1/3. It's 9 over 1 times 1/3, the invisible operation, and I get the answer 3. Turn the page. So when I have to solve multi-step expressions, I must use order of operations. So again, parentheses, exponent, multiplication, division, whichever occurs first, left to right, addition, subtraction, whichever occurs first, left to right. But the first thing that I always have to do in these problems is substitution. So I have to substitute the letter with the number that they give me. In this case, I have 5t plus 4, and they've told me that 3 is t. So 5 times 3 plus 4. 5 times 3 is 15 plus 4 is 19. Now I have to evaluate 4x squared if x is 1/8. Now notice that the x is right next to the squared. That means I'm only going to square the variable x. I'm not squaring the 4, only the x. If I were going to square the 4, it would have to have been written 4x squared. But it's not. It's written 4x squared. So I'm only going to square whatever the x is. In this case, it's 1/8. So I have 4 times 1/8 squared. And we know that 1/8 squared is writing 1/8 times 1/8, which is 1/64. Then I look for a relationship. 4 goes into 64 16 times, and I get the answer of 1/16. In problem number 6, or example number 6, I have 10a plus 7 if a is 1/5. And again, it's not 10 and 1/5. It's 10 times 1/5. I'm going to go ahead and put the 10 over 1. And 5 goes into 10 2 times. So now I have 2 plus 7, and I get the answer 9. So again, as you're evaluating these, set them up with substitution using parentheses or the multiplication dot so that you know you're multiplying when you do not see an operator. See you soon. Pause the video. Did you get what I got? I got 19, 14, and 1. Notice on number G, I put the 1/3 in parentheses with the squared, and I had to do that first because parentheses exponents has to be done first. 1/3 times 1/3 is 1/9. 9 over 1 times 1 over 9. The 9's cancel out, and you have the answer 1. Turn the page. Khalil is wrapping a gift for his brother's birthday. The box has a side length of 1/2 foot. Use the expression 6 side squared, where S represents the length of a side, to find the surface area of the box he is wrapping. Write your answer in feet squared. So the one thing I do know about this is that it's a cube, and this face is a square, and that's where you come up with a formula, 6 side squared. So the first thing I have to do is square the half, and I know that 1/2 times 1/2 gets me my 1/4. And then I look for a relationship. I know that 4 goes into 6. They're both even, so I'm going to cut them. That becomes a 3, that becomes a 2. So I have 3 over 2, which is the same thing as saying 6 over 4. I just simplified it. And I get 1 and 1/2. 1 and 1/2 square feet. Okay, it's your turn now. See you soon. Pause the video. Did you get what I got? Number 1 is 7, 2 is 5, 3 is 2. Number 4 is 14, 5 is 6, and 6 is 1/12. In number 7, I substituted P with 3, and I got $8. How are these guys similar? When you're solving numeric expressions and algebraic expressions, you have to use order of operation. Thanks for listening. See you soon.